All right, welcome back to Autobot Dawson Gaming, everyone. Today, it's my honor to be joined by Stig Wemyss, the original voice of Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. How are you doing today?
Hey, Joseph, and g'day, everyone. How's that? I just said g'day. G'day, everyone. Like I'm expected to behave in some sort of Australian type way because I'm tired as everything. But yeah, no, I'm good, and thanks for having me on your channel. And uh, hi, everyone, and thanks for playing the game.
Yeah, so my first question for you, just kind of as an introduction, I just wondered what it was like actually being casted as Ty and what it was like working with Chrome Studios kind of during their heyday.
Yeah, and look, it is going back a while, and you mentioned in your intro there, Dawson, that I was the original Ty. That's true. I only did the first game, the first when it first came out. When they went into a second season, they contacted me and said, we're going to do a second season, and I think my agent at the time, and was negotiating with them, and then they just dropped off the perch, and they either thought that they weren't willing to pay the slight little bit more money that my agent was asking for to be Ty again. And so they just went with a different voice. And so I'd be curious to know what everyone thinks. Well, I don't even know who ended up getting the role, the second role, in the subsequent video games. But what did you think, Dawson? Did you notice the change from season 1 to season 2?
Yes, I did. And I think you both did a fine job. But I've always preferred the original Ty, and that's why I reached out to you, because
Yeah.
it just has a certain I don't know, a certain flair to it that just really just oozes with excitement. And so I really don't know if the whole community feels that way. Why don't you guys comment that down below? But I mean, I would think the general
Yeah.
consensus would be that you killed it as the original voice, and definitely kind of the one everyone thinks of.
Yeah, and that may just be because you know what happens. That's the first time you hear it, and when you put a slight change to it, you're like, "Well, hang on a second, that's not the guy. That's not who we grew up or how what we knew it to be." And so it might just be a matter of that. But I haven't heard it. I don't even know who did it. Who did the second one? But yeah, like you say, I'm sure it was not that different. I'll tell you this story. You were asking me about working with the studio, and like I'd done lots of up until doing Thai, I'd actually done lots of animated work, and I was doing lots of voiceover work anyway. I'm an audiobook narrator. I did lots of TV and radio commercials. I was also in a couple of animated TV series back here in Australia. So I had, relative experience with creating, if you like, cartoon voices. And I just remember seeing the graphics that they were using for Thai and just loving how Australian it was, because you see so much that, um, that it just doesn't, it reflects a kind of an American, and nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't reflect the stories of where I grew up. It doesn't have the imagery of, where I grew up. But if you look at Thai, the way it's drawn, the characters, and the way they sound, of course. But it feels like we're telling stories that are from my culture, from my history, from my world. So I loved all of that about it, and I was determined to make him kind of this cheeky, lovable, and as you mentioned, sort of enthusiastic character that everybody would want to get behind and enjoy sort of spending time with, I guess.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because one of my questions that I was going to say for later, but fits right into what you just said, is, Thai, the whole game really has that incredible Australian atmosphere. And, at the time, of course, PS2 graphics were kind of mind blowing to us as kids. And like the landscapes were just breathtaking. And back then, I remember being blown away by it. And so a lot of kids here in the U.S. and probably across the world as well, it was likely, at least for me, it was our first look into like what Australian culture and environments were like to some degree. And so what did it mean for you to actually, I don't know if you've thought of it this way, but like by voicing Thai, you sort of introduced a lot of kids to Australia, maybe for the first time. So like, what does that mean to you? Is that why you had so much passion bringing to the role?
Yeah, I don't suppose I'd really thought of it at the time like that. I hadn't thought of that. But I do remember that a friend of mine who'd grown up in Australia, and he'd moved to Nevada and was working in construction, I think, over in Nevada, and he'd been away from Australia for a number of years, like 10 or 15 years, can't remember exactly, and he started a family in the States. Basically, he made America home. Anyway, he got this random call from him out of the blue one day. He called me and he said, "Oh man, like, long time no see," sort of thing. But he said, "My son has been playing a video game that you're the voice of called Ty the Tasmanian Tiger." And, I was talking to him about Australia because that's where I'm from. And, so that's why I got him into it. And he said, but he just loves this game. And he said it would mean the world if you could, say something to him. So anyway, a long story short, the dad put the kid on and said, "Hey, mate, I've got Ty the Tassie Tiger on the phone and he wants to say a few words." So
wow.
The kid's like, "Oh, my God." So I get on the phone to this guy, like, "What are you doing? What are you up to? What's it like living in America?" And apparently this kid, to this day, still tells the story about how he spoke to... He was only 7 or 8 or something, so, he spoke to Ty the Tassie Tiger and never forgot it. He had a direct link to the dude himself. So, I don't know whether that answers your question as such, but I do know that that made me realise that there was an impact there, that I thought, wow, people all the way over in America are getting to see our landscapes and our Australian stories, which it's usually the other way around. I mean, mostly when you turn on the television in my country, the bulk of what you are watching are American-made television shows and American games. And so for that to be reversed a little bit and for us to give something back to you guys was, quite rewarding.
Well, I thought it was so cool. I mean, it really spoke to me so heavily, especially the first game was just amazing. And I mean, clearly it's had that lasting impact because, just in the last few years, we've had the HD remaster come out kind of out of nowhere. Like we hadn't heard from the series in so long. And then like, bam, here's this remaster, they're slowly working on all of them. But it's just cool to see that it has had that impact that you're talking about. And it, just really, I mean, it's got to be just a beautiful... I would love to visit in person one day because just based on what we see in the game, I mean, it's an absolutely beautiful country. And I have some community members who I play other games with, like Monster Hunter. I have a friend from Australia who I play with there, and you guys are always so nice and welcoming, and it's just great to... It's great to have Ty to hold that up, sort of like a banner.
Yeah. And I mean, I think part of that reason too is that I think American culture and Australian culture, it's not dissimilar. I've lived in America for a little while, so I do know how it works. And we're like-minded. We're strong democracies, and we I think we admire each other's landscapes. Like I've been to parts of America that have blown my mind. But you're right in saying that Australia has some stunning, beautiful locations and great bushland and. In many ways, if you're not in the cities, a lot of it's really unspoiled, which is lovely. And, if it ends up being an ad for young people to one day have a dream to want to come and visit this country, that's a wonderful thing. It's something that we should all be doing, is seeing the world. So that's great.
Absolutely, man. So I also want to ask this, and I didn't even know this. Props to your voice acting talents, because as a kid, I didn't even know that the same actor played Ty's brother Sly as well. So what was it like having to bring these different characters to life? I think I read that you were Ty's father as well. So like having conversations kind of with yourself on this and bringing these two very different characters, to life within the same space. What kind of challenge did that present, and what kind of fun did you have trying to differentiate those two voices?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a voice actor, you always love it when you get a challenge like that. And I remember at the time thinking, they're from the same family, so it's kind of right that that they're not completely 100% different. That there is a feel in there that the dad and the son and the brothers, they all sound like they're from the same family. So rather than do too much with it, I remember really just thinking I kind of want to just lean into a different version and really kind of think more about the personality of each character and let that come through with how I did the voice. And then once you land on what the voice is going to sound like, then it becomes quite easy, and then the conversations between yourself is just fun. I mean, that's just what goes on in my head on a daily basis. I think is I'm just constantly making up voices and saying, "Oh, don't go that way." So it was just an opportunity to bring that to life. But yeah, I think I do this a lot when I'm doing audiobook narrating. Is I will when I first read the description of a character or see what the character looks like, I try and let a vision come into my head of who that reminds me of in my real life. Whether it be if it's an older character, I might think of my grandfather or somebody I know within my life that seems to reflect their personality and how they live. That way, when I'm developing the character, I'm not just plucking something out of midair. I'm kind of attaching it to something that's real within my life that I can draw on. And so when I play those characters, and I can't remember what I was using at the time, what substitutions I was using for those characters, but I would have had somebody in my life who I would draw on from reality to be able to make, because I know it's a cartoon and it's a game, but in my opinion, a lot of the reason that stuff like that works so well is that it is based in reality, and you're not just doing a silly voice, in a sense, that there's something tangible and real within these characters so that everybody can connect with them. Otherwise, they're just dots and dashes in space that don't mean anything. Whereas if you give it a real soul, and that sounds a bit wankerish, I suppose, but that's how I work. I come from a place of trying to find the reality within everything that I create, especially with my voice, because it's the theatre of the mind, So you want it to come from a real place. And I think I managed to do that. I certainly did that with Ty, and then I was able to just sort of expand those out to the rest of the characters that I did, which, if you look at it, I don't think they're in it all that much anyway. So it was relatively easy just to find that voice at the time when they would speak.
Well, that's awesome, man. No, I really like that. I mean, I definitely agree that the reason that so many of these, like, quote-unquote kids games have stuck with us all the way through into adulthood now and, like, replaying them, is because you're right. Like, there is something very real there, even though the character itself is, an animal character. He's got that human characteristic, coming through thick and thin. Well, we're almost.
Of course, he should have, because he speaks. He speaks in a human voice. So we break the wall there. And most Ty Tasmanian Tigers don't speak English.
Right.
And so by doing that, you allow some kind of human element into the mix. So you don't shy away from that as the actor bringing it to life.
Absolutely. Well, I just wanted to ask you one or two more things here before I let you go. One of which was just going to be, do you have a favorite memory or character from the game or from your time recording? Maybe even a favorite boomerang from the game? Just like something that sticks out that is kind of, stuck with you over all this time.
I wish I could. I wish I could just whip out a story to say exactly what, to give you a really clever answer. But I just don't. I can't think. I just remember being, when you go into a little dark recording studio to make this stuff, when you see the finished product, and at the time, there's not even any animated imagery that you can use. All you're really given are some slides, some pictures, and hand-drawn imagery of what he looks like, especially in the very beginning when we were creating him. I didn't know what to expect, really. We were flying blind. So I was just in a recording studio, working with a sound engineer, working with, I'm pretty sure the director was there as well, trying to find the voice and the energy and the style that matched what his vision of the way this game would look when it was all put together. And full credit to those guys. I mean, they knew exactly what they wanted. I remember them having a very clear idea of how they were directing them. What I brought to the table was what they were looking for from day one. and then it was just a matter of massaging that into place. So I don't really have any specific memory of it, just that it was an enjoyable creative process that I felt a big part of. And honestly, Dawson, creating anything from nothing, from a dark space where there's nothing, and then seeing it through and committing to it and finding it in your mind's eye that you can match it, that when you watch it or play the game for the first time, you go, yeah, that's what I thought it would be like. That feels right. And I slot into that really well. So, yeah, that's cool.
It's definitely incredible to see all those pieces come together. Well, I wanted to give you this opportunity to talk about anything that you were doing recently or anything that you wanted fans of Ty to, that are fans of you to maybe be able to come see some of your other work or know what you're up to these days. So just anything you can, use that for whatever you want to talk about.
So this is, I have my own video production company, and I do a fair bit of corporate stuff that keeps the wolf from the door. But I guess my passion is creating short films and writing, directing, and producing my own short films. I've got a new short film that's due to hit the circuit pretty soon. And over the years, a lot of it gets. I do enter a lot of them into American festivals. Some get in and some don't. I've yet to actually... I've had a few films that have been in festivals that I thought, I should go over and, be a part of that festival, and I'm yet to do that. But if I get a good enough hit at a festival, then I'll definitely come over. And a few people have actually reached out to me for various different things, including Ty to be a part of Comic-Con stuff, and I think some people have nominated me to be a part of that. But that's never happened either. I'd love to try and do something like that and connect more with people who know my work from the past. But I guess it's a long way away. Australia's a long way from America. And I guess what I do know is that I love my industry. I love what I do. I love creating content and characters. And especially when things like this happen, when randomly a guy from the other side of the world reaches out and says, hey, we'd like to learn a little bit more about your involvement with something like this. It just goes to show the impact that creativity and creating things can have, and a big part of the reason why we do it, when you can connect to people who are on the other side of the world. But there's this connection there. It's quite remarkable, really, when you think of it like that.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think that's what makes us human, right? That ability to have these abstract ideas that are made reality, and your passion for creating definitely shown in this character, and we all very much appreciate that from all the fans. And so everybody, please go check out Stig everywhere that you can possibly find him. And we need to, we need to come together to get you at a Comic-Con for sure. But
I'd love to do that. It'd be awesome. My company's called Mezzanine Films, and so you can find stuff that I do with the work that I do. A lot of it's not animation. Sometimes we do a bit of animation, but these days I'm more of a writer, producer, director, and you can see some of the short films that I've been doing on various different channels if you search me out. But it's Mezzanine Films. And come on guys, let's get me to the next big Comic-Con. I'll come dressed as Ty. It'll be great.
That would be absolutely incredible. Oh my gosh, I definitely think people would be in line to see that. Well, I'll be sure to link that site in the description box, so all you guys go take a look at that and see what Stig's been up to these days. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I mean, seriously, you really brought a childhood favorite character of mine and so many other kids, I'm sure, to life. And with that recent HD remaster of Ty, so many of us have been re-experiencing that love for the game and the character all over again. And we just really appreciate you. So thank you again so much for taking the time. And, I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Dawson. It's a great pleasure, and to everybody out there who love Ty and still to this day continues to love it. Go you. Great to be a part of it, and thanks for the opportunity to speak.